It is Thursday, the 12th of September 2024, the eve of the second anniversary of the fifth administration of the Republic, the presidency of William Ruto. And tonight, a plan to refurbish or is it to build a new airport is placing the Ruto administration in the eye of the storm. We exclusively report on a 12-month trail of people, documents and communications that became part of a web that can now be described with one word, Adani. And for that reason, Roads and Transport Cabinet Secretary Davis Churchill is the sole guest live on this set as the news gang seeds room for an extensive conversation that will include your questions on the Adani deal. And of course, Waziri, good to see you tonight. But first, in the headlines tonight.
Adani has been given contractual arrangements for them to supply power in Kenya using Ketraco, and they're intending also to take over KenGen, and they will be the one running the SHIF insurance system for our healthcare. Between
a mystery and a deal, Transport CS Churchill's Senate appearance halted over failure to produce documents. Government to government oil to airport deal, the trail of deal making, what Citizen TV found out about Adani deal.
Tunaomba atuachie soko yetu, watuachie soko yetu.
Mama Mboga's rage, Wakulima market erupts over proposed relocation plans.
Mount Kenya region has suffered high-octane politics around the fathom unity to support individual and personal ambition rather than the actualization, pursuit and lobbying of the interests.
Mount Kenya political meltdown. DP Gachagua, a wanted man, as Ruto allies mount fresh offensive. Good evening. Our sign language interpreter is Yola Nzale. Tonight, we begin with what we have found out about Kenya's most controversial story at the moment, the reported planned takeover of the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport by Indian company, the Adani Group. For months now, a national row has been simmering over what is believed to be an improper transaction involving the management of the country's largest airport. The row erupted into a full-blown aviation crisis yesterday when airport staff went on strike over what is turning out to be a deal of the mighty in the government with an Indian conglomerate under the Adani Enterprises. Citizen TV has been piecing together different threads of a complex web around the plan that could lead to leasing of the nation's most important aviation asset for at least 3 decades to entities linked to individuals in India, the Middle East, and of course Kenya. Here is our report.
I have seen many people saying William Ruto wants to sell the airport. Am I a madman? You know, sure, how do you sell a strategic national asset? You have to be insane.
On the 20th of July 2024, President William Ruto, addressing town hall meeting in Mombasa, confronted the JKIA controversy for the first time in public, seeking to put out embers of suspicion. But the political intrigues around the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport date back to December 2013, when President Uhuru Kenyatta and then Deputy President William Ruto oversaw the groundbreaking of what was known as Greenfield Terminal, a 56 billion shilling worth of investment that was intended to enhance JKIA's passenger capacity to 20 million a year, while also building a second runway, which experts say will be a necessity at least by 2035.
This is not about politics. This is about the future of this country. This is about the prosperity of all.
It is the single critical moment for us to come together and build this country in the best interest of all Kenyans.
While the works had been clear to start, the same government mysteriously cancelled the contract in March 2016. It would later emerge that top figures in government and private businessmen differed, and the airport deal was cancelled as a move in settling political scores. Talk of a new or refurbished JKIA went silent from then on, and in 2022, William Ruto became president. Sources told Citizen TV that in the early months of the regime, conversations began about reviving some of the mega projects that had stalled or collapsed under the previous administration. Part of the conversation revisited the Greenfield Terminal project that was now a dispute under arbitration. It emerges that a decision was taken to withdraw the case and have the airport project pursued under a public-private initiative on argument that the government had no money to spend on the JKIA. The collapsed Greenfield Terminal project saw the loss of 4.5 billion shillings that had already been paid to Chinese contractors for the project. Another 600 million shillings was paid to settle the matter by arbitration. Around that time, the new administration was also introducing a contentious so-called government-to-government oil importation deal entered ostensibly to save the country from foreign exchange crisis. The oil deal was hurriedly closed in 10 days from when bids were invited on 1st of March 2023 and 10th of March 2023 when master framework agreements were signed with 3 international oil companies. The 3 IOCs were Aramco Trading Fujairah FZE, Abu Dhabi National Oil Company and the Emirates National Oil Company. The oil deal was to last to December 2023, but was extended for a further 12 months to December 2024. All 3 companies are based in the United Arab Emirates, including Aramco Trading, which is a subsidiary of Saudi Aramco of Saudi Arabia, based in Fujairah in the UAE. Then comes the link between the oil deal and the JKIA controversy. It emerges that conversations about the airport project were initiated at the time with the same individuals affiliated to the government-to-government oil deal. Government, however, never made any formal statements until June 2023, when the then Transport Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen announced that the government would be inviting bids for the construction of a new terminal at the JKIA.
In the next couple of weeks, I should give ourselves at most 2 months, should have been able to put in public the expression of interest for investors to come and build a new terminal.
There is, however, no evidence that invitations for the expression of interest ever went out. Then in December 2023, Murkomen was back with this statement.
Now we have started the process of advertising for construction of a greenfield terminal that will be done under PPP, and that advertisement is going by mid-January next year, and hopefully by, as I said, by 2027 we should have a new terminal that will sort out all this mess that should have gone to infrastructure.
No advertisement was made, and instead this invitation for bids for an agency to advise the government was published by KIA in May 2024, months after the Adani deal had commenced. The invitation read, a request for expression of interest for provision of consultancy services for PPP project of construction of new terminal building and associated works at JKIA. In March 2024, Adani Airports Holding Limited submitted a privately initiated proposal, PIP, to the Kenya Airports Authority, proposing to develop and expand the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport through build, operate and transfer model of public-private partnership. The sequence of events, however, raises questions. First, the Adani proposal was received in March 2024. The Cabinet of Kenya approved the National Aviation Policy and the JKIA Medium-Term Investment Plan on June 11, 2024. The 2 documents essentially spell out the future intentions of KIA. By this time, however, Adani had already submitted their well-informed proposal. It turns out that in February 2024, ALG, a global transport and infrastructure consulting firm, contracted by the KIA to advise on the prospects of putting up a new passenger terminal building at the JKIA, had submitted their findings. In those findings, ALG concluded that the Kenya Airports Authority could invest in a new facility by getting into an airport concession that would last up to 30 years. ALG, however, recommended that even though a public-private partnership was a logical proposition, it would be best to use the open tendering route. ALG's report stated that an open tender process is the best international practice and that it was the default procurement method in the Kenyan PPP regulations. Adani, on the other hand, in its proposal, opposed an open tender process as it would lead to time wastage. Adani said that compared to competitive bidding, which is a lengthy and time-consuming process, PIP, meaning privately initiated proposal, offers fast-track and time-bound procurement. Adani stated that PIP allows terms beyond financial aspects, ensuring citizen welfare. And so, what is in Adani's privately initiated deal? Adani, in its initial documents, proposed to broadly build and operate airport facilities for a period of 30 years. Specifically, Adani's proposal is about operation, maintenance, and management of the airport. Adani proposes to upgrade and expand the airport in a phased manner as may be required under the master plan of KIA. And the Adani plan also proposes to develop, operate, and maintain the city side. In practical terms, Adani proposes to take over nearly all functions currently performed by the Kenya Airports Authority. In April 2024, the Kenya Airports Authority, upon review of the Adani proposal, found it untenable, saying the feasibility study report submitted by Adani has not fully satisfied criteria of project feasibility and affordability. At the time, KIA found that Adani had proposed to first refurbish existing facilities of the JKIA before moving to build a new terminal. KIA, however, wanted a new terminal built first to be followed by refurbishments.
We must have the right investment for the airport. The airport is a strategic government asset, national asset.
And as the government of Kenya was busy assuring Kenyans that everything was under control, details emerged of a scheme to roll out a Adani project. On 7th of August 2024, a new company named Global Airports Operator LLC was registered in Abu Dhabi in the UAE. On the same day, Adani Enterprises reported to Indian authorities that the new company had been incorporated with specific objects of investment or acquisition for construction, operation, and maintenance of airports outside India. 3 weeks later, on the 30th of August, the Adani Enterprises Limited filed another notification with the Indian authorities, including the National Stock Exchange of India, that a new company had been incorporated in Kenya under the name Airports Infrastructure PLC as a step-down subsidiary company. The Kenyan company is to be owned wholly by the Abu Dhabi-based company, which in turn is owned by the Adani Airports Holdings Limited, which in itself is owned by the Adani Group. The location of the holding company in Abu Dhabi, tallying with narratives that the real investors eyeing the Nairobi airport are based in the UAE. It is reported that already the Arabs have put in some $2 billion in the company, perhaps to fund the Nairobi project. Terms of the Adani deal have been shrouded in secrecy, but snippets leaking out of the various sources are eyebrow-raising. In the initial proposal, Adani demanded protection by the government of Kenya from competition and that no other airport would be built within a radius of 150 kilometers. In a draft contract dated June 2024, that figure was reduced to a radius of 100 kilometers, with reports indicating that may have changed back to 150 kilometers. Adani stated that the construction of a new airport to provide commercial passengers services within a 100-kilometer radius of the airport site would be an action of material adverse by the government of Kenya. The draft stated that were that to occur, the Adani company would be entitled to additional costs incurred and or loss of revenues suffered as a result. The draft stated that to the extent Adani is prevented from performing any of its obligations under the agreement as a result of such material adverse government action, Adani would be relieved from the performance of such obligations for as long as the material adverse government action persists. Now, an aerial radius of 100 kilometers from the JKIA would stretch to Magadi in Kajiado to the south, Nyeri and neighboring Mount Kenya counties to the north, Nakuru County to the west, and Machakos County to the east. An aerial radius of 150 kilometers stretches to the Kenyan border with Tanzania in Namanga, Laikipia County to the north, Kitui to the east, and the Masai Mara Reserve in Narok County to the west. According to ALJ that advised the KIA on the Adani proposal, Adani's financial proposals would be bad for the country. First, Adani projected a 52% spike in fees in the first year of concession to be transferred to airport users. KIA in its evaluation noted that the spike would not be related to any improvements of the JKIA. The authority feared that would be burdening airport users, making JKIA unattractive as a regional hub. Adani proposed an 18% return on debt and a 21% return on equity. The Kenya Airports Authority found the rates of return to be too high, since airport concession should ordinarily range between 8% and 15% of return.
We negotiate on what you might have come to understand as what would be the return on equity we are going to allow them. We negotiate on the debt-equity ratio because ordinarily equity is expensive. And because equity is expensive, you don't want the debt-equity ratio to be significantly, or the equity to be significantly high.
ALJ, the external airport PPP advisor, recommended that the concessionaire's return should vary depending on the performance of the business and that charges be adjusted only based on consumer pricing index. On the implementation of the project, ALJ noted that the proposed investment plan supplied by Adani failed to include essential infrastructure requirements, including the second runway and the necessary number of contact stands for the new terminal. This would lead, according to ALJ, the uncertainty on the development plan with a considerable level of risk to the transaction and leaves open the possibility of future disputes. In case of unresolved disputes, Adani proposed that such would be resolved by arbitration administered by Singapore International Arbitration Centre, that the seat of the arbitration shall be mutually agreed either for Singapore, UAE or London. Reports indicate that despite the desire by various government institutions to conduct due diligence, including the Kenya Airports Authority, certain senior government advisors have been piling pressure on some of those institutions to speed up their side of due diligence, with calls to close the deal as soon as possible. It has also emerged that the airport deal has been the subject of varied deliberations during foreign tours made by senior government officials. In some of those instances, influential businessmen have offered free air travel to and from Nairobi, with significant progress recorded after such engagements. Given the heavy influence from powerful individuals in business and in government, some of key stakeholders are said to have taken a backseat so as not to appear as if sabotaging an important government project.
It will include taking the concession agreement to Cabinet, and I want to assure you, Cabinet is here to protect the interests of our Kenyans.
Sam Gituko, Citizen TV.